Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Reaching Towards, the channel where we reach deeper into Scripture to grow in our faith, where we reach towards being Christ-like, reach towards the world to be a bright light in it like Christ intended us to be. And today we are looking at an image of the theological tailor to try and help us to minister more effectively to people. Now, this is for anyone, from the person who takes discipleship seriously. You don't have any formal position, you don't have any formal training. You just like to guide younger believers along the path. This video will be helpful for you to learn on how to minister to them, that person specifically. And even towards the more official things like pastors, evangelists, missionaries, this will be helpful for you as well, because it will help you to tailor your theology for the specific person or for the specific congregation you are serving. Now, I am not a theological relativist. I believe there is black and white truth and wrong. I believe there is deception and there is the way that Christ intended. So what I'm doing in this video is I am sharing an image that will help us just to understand things differently, see it from a different angle, so that we can more intently and wisely serve in the situation we find ourselves in. And I realize that we tend to give people like a theological uniform, a one-size-fits-all uniform, that we mass produce somewhere and we print it in a lot of books. We make videos like this one, and now everyone should follow this book, everyone should follow this specific video, everyone should think like this, everyone should be like this. But yet we know that people are different. The context people are serving in is different. The spiritual development of people is not all on the same level. So the world is infinitely complex, people are infinitely complex, and we want to give everyone the same sermon, the same 3-point sermon to listen to, and now you will understand everything, or the same 5-point theology, and that will explain everything to everyone in all situations. And so, no, this makes sense if you're like a seminary teacher and you're just getting in students and you have to pump up students that's ready to go and develop in the world, because seminary just gives you information and it begins you on that path of growth, but it doesn't really give you everything you need. When you finish seminary, you actually realize that you don't have what you need, but they started you on that path. So there it makes sense. It makes sense for people who's writing like a denominational document. You're not thinking about individuals, you're thinking about the system that we have to lead. See, in situations like that, yes, it does make sense to have this one-size-fits-all mass-produced thing that everyone has to follow, because you're not working with people necessarily. You're transmitting information. You are preparing a mold that is set so that someone can come and they can go to the mold, and there's something that needs to be imprinted on them, and from there on they live deeper. That's good. But what I am supposing is that people are different, and we need to adapt to the people we are serving. We're not serving a nameless system or a nameless mass. There are people we are servicing, real individuals, and we need to minister to them properly, in a way that matters to them, in a way that they can understand, in a way that they can take and grab hold of and go and live their lives further. So I created this concept of 3 body types that you will find in the world or in the church, and this is not a rule. This is just 3 extremes to show the diversity that you can have, and all of us have something of all of this in us. And if I'm honest, there's more of the stuff I don't want from the body types in me than the strong fit one that I'm going to explain. So if you can imagine someone's spiritual life as a physical body, you know, your physical body is dependent on how fit you are, how well you eat, how well you exercise. It's not the same for everyone. Everyone has their own unique body with their own unique shapes and things. their own things they are capable of and their own things that they can't do. And this is the same for your spiritual life. You're going to have spiritual fit people who, for the sake of the illustration, went to the spiritual gym and they exercised and they ate properly. They are fit, they are strong, they are ready to go and do the work that needs to be done. They have trained their minds, so they know a lot, they know how to apply it, and because their minds are trained like we just did in our Hebrews video, they are ready to learn more, to learn deeper things. They are ready for complexity. But then you have spiritual babies, and spiritual babies, this is the new believer, the person who doesn't have a lot of experience, the person who doesn't have a lot of knowledge yet. And this person needs to be protected, they need to be cuddled, they need to receive that soft milk-like doctrine and teaching and training so that they can grow into the person that God made them to be. And then we have the spiritual fat people. And imagine this as your typical pew warmer, the person who sits and listens to sermons every Sunday. But they don't go out and practice, they don't live it. The person who consumes theology, who reads books, and they listen to podcasts eternally, and they have all of this knowledge, they have all of this accumulated spiritual potential in them. But they don't do anything with it, they just sit with it. That would be a spiritual fat person because they have accumulated more than enough. They have everything they need, but they don't use it. Now, the goal of this video is not to give you more work. It's not to give you another system or another set of rules that you need to study. And this is just to help you, to enable you to use more wisdom, to look at the people you are serving and say, how can I serve them effectively? So this is not going to take you more time. This is not going to be an extra program that you need to run. This is just spend time with the people you are with. Take the effort to get to know them. Not just what they say, not just the person they present, but who they really are. Ask some probing questions. Challenge them to go do some work and study with you. This is the best way to get to know people and to serve them. And it will just improve your ministry tenfold. Now imagine you're a tailor and you have a measuring tape to go and measure someone, and there's different things you are looking at the shape of this person's body so you can make clothes exactly like they need them. And as a person who is serving others, we need a spiritual measuring tape, like a theological measuring tape, so we can measure people to see what they are and adapt how we speak to them, how we treat them, what we expect from them. So I identified 5 points that I think is important. As it's not a rule, you can change and swap these as you want. That's necessary and usable and practical in your context. But the first one I identified is biblical knowledge. How well does someone know the Bible? And not just how well do they know Bible trivia and can name up as much verses as possible, but how well does the person know the message of the Bible? How well do they know the narrative of the Bible? Can they use it? Can they explain it? Not just do they know facts, but are they literate? Can they open up to a random passage or a difficult passage, read it, understand it, and do it? The second one is theological knowledge. Now here we look at systems and, the human-made dogmas and systematic theology, traditions. And how well does the person understand these, especially the one they're in? So you start with your own, the one you already have. How well can they explain it? How well can they work within it? But also other systems around them, because there's so many different theologies out there. How well do they understand it? Can they use what is good and throw away what is bad? Can they contextualize their system to different situations? Like if you're in your system in a church that everyone agrees on the system, it's one thing. But if you go out into the world where everyone believes a different system, this starts to get tricky when you're trying to apply and explain theology. So how well can a person do that? Then the third one is worldview. How do you see the world around you? How do you understand the world around you? Now, yes, here you can name the labels like Epicureanism, hedonism, Platonism, and all these things we have going on today from a philosophical perspective. But what I think is more important, what I'm more interested in, is how do you understand the world around you? How do you interpret what is happening? How do you apply your faith in the real world? Do you know how to make good decisions? And this leads into the fourth one, wisdom and discernment. Do you clearly see the difference between right and wrong? Or in a situation where right and wrong is not the case and you only have bad options, can you see the difference between the worst and the least bad option? If you only have good options, can you see the difference between the least good option and the best option? Then wisdom as well. Sometimes just seeing the difference is not enough, but knowing how to interpret, knowing how to imply, knowing how to express yourself and how to live out into the world is really important. But then not just knowing how to do it and being able to see it, but the fifth one, embodied faith. Do you actually live what you believe? Do you apply what you know? So here I look at your actions. I look at the verbs of your life. I hear what you say, but now I am observing you. Are you doing and living in accordance to what you're saying, in accordance to what you believe, in accordance to what you know? So this is all very practical. It takes time. It's just observing people. It's just asking questions, having honest conversations. It's not difficult, but for some reason it's something we neglect, and it's really simple. And if you apply this, it improves your theology, your ministry, your service a lot. So the first measurement we're going to discuss is how well do they know and use the Bible. So ask the person biblical questions. And don't just ask them Bible trivia like who was David's grandfather. That's not really a good measure of Bible knowledge. A good measure of Bible knowledge is, tell me how Ezekiel and Daniel fit into each other from a historical perspective. Or what is the meta-narrative of the Bible from creation to recreation? Can you name it? Can you explain it? Stuff like that. How can you explain the gospel from Revelation? No, that's how you test someone's Bible knowledge. Or you hand them the Bible and you ask them, explain to me this passage, and then you observe the person's ability to actually use the Bible to interpret it within its context. And here you're going to find the three people again. You're going to have the fit person, and he is going to have the spiritual and mental muscle to pull apart the passage that you're asking them to interpret, or the question, and lay out all of these different facts that's in the Bible and present them to you. But then they know how to weave them back together again into its context, into its proper form, and they can give you a logical argument for what the Bible says and what the Bible teaches. If you tailor your theology to these people, you're not going to present them your typical 3-point Bible study. You're going to present them a fancy, technical, detailed Bible study. This is the people you can go into depth with. They don't need more basic clothing of Bible knowledge. They need a specialist tailored robe, something beautiful, something colorful and technical and delicate. They already have a disciplined mind. They already have good Bible knowledge. They already have the skill to use it. Now comes your turn to give them something that they can use that's deeper as well, help them to grow even more, to understand even better. But then on the other side, you're going to have the spiritual baby, the person who doesn't know much about the Bible yet. They don't really know how to do proper Bible study. They don't know how to interpret and imply and observe and all of these hermeneutical steps. For them, you give a soft, comfortable blanket of teaching. You wrap them in your 3-point sermons, in your simple methods, in your easy Bible study. Read this verse What does it teach you kind of Bible teaching? Very simple, very easy. Because a baby's not going to appreciate a fancy robe. A baby's going to look at a fancy robe and not even know what it is, not even understand it. They're going to think this is way too complicated, and they might just bring up some of their mole comment. So for a baby, you give basic things so that they can grow, so that they can understand on their level. But then the problem is you get the fat person in biblical knowledge. You get these people who can really go into depth with the Bible. They can tell you a lot of things. But soon you start to realize, but wait, this person is just repeating what they have read in books. They're just repeating what they heard in sermons. They haven't really studied the Bible for themselves and reached their own conclusions and their own understandings. They can just repeat what they have been told. So for them, you don't give fancy robes. You don't even give them the baby clothes. That's basic Bible teaching. You give them the raw materials, the Bible itself. You give them the Bible and you expect them to interpret it. You expect them to teach you from it so that they can learn to use it, so they can put application into all of this knowledge that they have and start to use all of this accumulated Bible knowledge that they have in a way that actually matters. So the second measurement is, can they think theologically and not just repeat systems? So this is measuring someone's capacity for theology, how well they can use it, not just how well they can name it. Like I said, it's famous for theological systems to be 5 points for some reason, but some people can name the 5 points because they memorized it, and then they can repeat it back to you and explain it in a way that they've heard it explained. But that's not really a good measure of how well someone knows theology. Now, ask someone to explain you a piece of theology, but then you start giving pushback, realistic pushback that they can expect within the world. So you ask them, but okay, where does the Bible say this? Or, I know there is this idea out there that says this, and it's opposing to your system, so how would you explain this? That's a great way to measure someone's theology, and it comes across way more natural than asking them to repeat systems. And here you will find you have a theological fit person. Yes, this person can repeat to you the system and explain the system. But this person can also tell you how they've made it their own, how they've personalized it, how they are applying it within their context. And they can interact with other systems. They know how to defend their faith, how to stand strong, how to understand, but they also know how to translate their theology to other people so they can use it properly. And to these people you tailor what we would call a theological professor's robe in this illustration. So they know a lot. And you teach them even more. You teach them even more details and even more skills. And not just in a way that they can teach themselves. That's why I'm saying a professor's robe, because they go out and they profess to other people. They teach other people. So you also teach them the skills to teach on their own. But then you're going to have the baby. Once again, they don't know theology. They can't even name their own system and repeat it and explain it. They definitely don't have a personalized system, and they do not know how to apply this in the real world and talk with people with different viewpoints. So to them we tailor shorts and a t-shirt. They need to go and play in a sandbox of theology. We teach them the basics, but we also give them enough freedom to move freely, to grow, to explore, to grow into the person that Christ wants them to be. So, like a baby needs to grow up through play, through learning, we allow these spiritual babies to grow. We teach them the basics, but we allow them the freedom to explore and to play. Obviously within safety, but we will still get to that one when it gets to worldview. It will get very important. But the theological fat person, once again, a person that can tell you a lot of theology. They can repeat systems. They have read all of the books. They have watched all of the debates. These people can talk theology the entire day. But once again, you start to realize that they know a lot of theology, but they haven't internalized it. They don't really live and think theology for themselves. They are just being spoon-fed by what other people say, and they repeat it. And even if it's internalized, a lot of times it's just internalized in this checklist of, I need to go to church, I need to read the Bible, I need to pray. It's like an internalized checklist. It's not really a personal theology of life, of living. So this person doesn't need to learn more. They know enough. They need to practice to use what they know, to formulate something that matters, to apply into the world in a way that has fruits and benefits. So to them you give workwear. You give them a worker's uniform. You don't teach them anything anymore. You go up to them and you ask them, hey, here is a problem. Help me solve it. I came across this idea. How does the Bible inform me about it? How can we think about it properly? You need to push that person to start applying, to start thinking, and in a way that they can't just repeat what they've heard before. You need to be truly novel. You need to really push them. You need to activate that thing inside of them that is so used to just absorbing, to start living, to start being fountains of living waters flowing out of them like a Christian is supposed to be. How do they understand and engage in their context? This will be worldview. This is how they understand the world around them, how they apply themselves in the world, how do they make sense of the world. And you can go into philosophical worldview systems, but most people don't really follow these systems. Most people have their own personalized worldview. So ask them about their life and how they witness in it. Ask a person, how do you understand the world around you? Give them different scenarios. Ask them, in these scenarios, how would you present the gospel? How would you witness to the people in it effectively? How will you manage to live as a Christian in a difficult context, like let's say you move to a Muslim country? How will you live as a Christian? And this is how you analyze someone's worldview from a ministry perspective that's necessary for teaching them. And then once again, you'll see the fit person. This person understands their context. They know how to interpret it properly. They know how to adjust to the situation. They don't just have one way of living and they stick to it. They know that the world's complex, the world is changing, situations are different, and they know how to apply themselves properly in every situation. And they know how to be an effective witness to everyone at all times. And to them, you don't tailor a theology that is soft and comfortable. For them, you tailor the hazardous material suit so they can go out into the hazardous world and not be harmed by it. So you need to give them a theology that they know how to defend their faith, how to present their faith. You know how to stand strong, how to be protected against the harsh reality of the dark world we live in. But then you get to the baby. The baby doesn't understand their context. Mostly they just complain about their context. And they don't really know how to understand it, how to apply themselves, how to live effectively. And they might have some opinions from popular philosophies or YouTube videos that I've seen or the people around them, but they really can't articulate anything meaningful. And to them you give toy clothes. You don't send them out into the real fire of the world to go and live for themselves. No. You protect them in your church community, in a space where they are safe. And you teach them to understand what's happening around them, step by step. Remember, they're not just going to live in church or in their safe bubble of community. They are still out in the world, they are still living, so you can start with where they're at. Teach them how to observe what's going on around them. Teach them how to be able to read the context and apply themselves, how to witness to different kinds of people. But then you get the fat person. Now, the fat person will sound like the spiritually fit person. And they can talk about contexts all day long. They can talk about applying themselves in different contexts all day long. But if you observe them, they're going to act like babies. They're just going to be crying the entire time. They're just going to be complaining. They're just going to expect that everyone else solves the situation for them, and they're not going to apply themselves. They want you to solve the world they're living in. And no, we have to stop giving these people the comfort of this community. You know, exactly the opposite of the baby. The baby needs to be cuddled, but the worldview fat person that knows everything but they're not applying themselves, we need to place expectation on them, not comfort. We need to expect from them, like, hey, try and go and talk to 2 people during this week, or make a post on social media about something deep, something that matters, not just main talking points, keyboard warrior stuff, but actual proper material. Start expecting them to evangelize. Start expecting them to start talking to other people and witnessing to them, even if it's within church, where we have to teach each other. Do they take their part in it? Do they just sit and be taught by everyone, or are they taking part in the discipling process? Do they take part in making sure that things are right, that things are happening as it's supposed to be happening? We have to place expectation on these people because they have everything they need. They just need to be pushed to apply it. And now that I'm thinking about it, also with the spiritually fat people, for the illustration's sake, sometimes it's just spiritually afraid people. Because they don't know if they're gonna act in the church. Will it be received in a way that is right? They might have been in a situation where they did try to live it out, and they were so crushed even by fellow believers and especially the world around them, that they started to retract to protect themselves. And sometimes you need to learn how to get people to get past that, to heal, to adjust, so that they can live out properly again. But the fourth measurement, can they navigate complexity and nuance? So this will be discernment and wisdom. Can they see the difference between right and wrong? And can they observe difficult situations where there is no clear answer? So pose to them a tough situation or a tough question. Or as life is, life throws that at us the whole time. So just observe people. How do they act? What do they do in those kinds of situations? Can they deal with complexity? Do they know how to make good decisions? And the spiritually fit person, they will be able to observe the situation, and they will quickly be able to realize what's the right road to take, and they will go and do it. They will know how to live it out. So to this person, we don't tailor some basic thing, your 3-point sermon or your 5-point systematic. To these people, we tailor specialized work gear. Because here's the thing, God called everyone for something, even you. He gave you and everyone a gift that they need to go live out and apply, with a calling that they are supposed to go and do. So we tailor to them specific teaching, specific theology, specific care that will enable them to go and do it, to go and live out, that they can use in their real life. But then you'll find the baby, and the baby cannot deal with context and nuance. And they will have their 5 truths, and the 5 truths are just like stamped all across all answers. Like when someone takes a monkey puzzle and they just answer A or B at every single question, because A or B is what they've been told is right. But we need to teach them to grow, to be able to see, to help them to experiment and to live out in their lives. We need to tailor these people the kinds of clothes that will not force them into some specialized task like we do with the fit person. But we tailor them basic Bible knowledge, basic truths, basic skills of Christianity, evangelism and all of that kind of stuff, Bible study. And we teach them so that they can grow, so that they can discover what their calling is, what their gifting is, so that they can start doing that specialized work. But then you get to the spiritually fat person again. And this person will know how to explain a lot of things. But once again, if you observe them, they're not doing it. And if you really listen to their explanations, you realize they're just repeating a theology or a philosophy that someone else taught them, or a method that they have been trained in. They don't really have that personalized ability to use wisdom, to apply their knowledge in a way properly. They seem to make a mess of things. And here, I think the secret is you take away the clothes from them so that they can learn to make their own clothes. You take away all your explanations of wisdom and complexity and how to make good decisions so that they can start using what they already know. This will be putting the person in a kind of situation where you go up to them and ask them their opinion. What do they think the solution is to specific things? This will be going up to the person and talking to them about difficult things. Force them to start thinking, to start using their own wisdom instead of just relying on what someone else is saying. Then do they actually live out what they know? So this is where you observe the person. Do they act according to what they speak? And this is a lot harder than it sounds to do, actually. Because talking is cheap, speaking is easy. And a spiritually fit person will have a direct correlation between what they believe and how they act. They do what they say. They act on their faith. They stand on what they believe in. They don't follow some script because they know how to live. They know how to put on God's armor and live for themselves. And for them, we tailor for this armor that they're wearing in the spiritual warfare so that they can be protected. This will be technical things, hard things, uncomfortable things, heavy things, but they can carry it because they're fit. You're not going to give that to a baby because a baby is going to be crushed. A baby doesn't know how to live out what they know. They know facts, they know they're supposed to live, but they don't see the connection yet. They don't have the ability to live it out. Today we give track and field clothes. We don't send a baby out into the war. We send a baby to the school playground. Go and practice how to run. Go and practice your jump rope. Do sports and learn fighting through play so that you can go and do that. So this is the people we teach, like basic apologetics, basic evangelism, stuff like the book of Jude, how to defend your faith against false teachers. And we guide them gently until they become fit and strong enough, big enough in their faith to become the warrior that God intends them to be on their own. Then you have the spiritually fat person. The person who has what is necessary to become a warrior. They have eaten what a warrior eats. They've consumed the Bible and good theology, good teaching, good understanding, good wisdom. But it's just in here, it's internalized. They are bulking up, they are being puffed up. And to them, we don't really tailor clothes. For them, we turn into a coach. We force them like, hey, here is something that needs doing. Come and do this with me. Or you give them suggestions like, don't you think you can do this? Or a lot of times, this is the kind of people that complains in church, like with the sound. Instead of applying the sound, tailoring the sound system in a way that suits them, tell them like, hey, I'm glad to hear that God laid this issue on your heart. Why don't you come help and serve with the sound ministry? The AV ministry. Help these people to actually do what God laid on their hearts, what they already know. So this principle also applies to churches, because no two churches are the same. You can say the same for families. No two families are the same. People change. The situation changes. The context they live in change. And you can't expect that what worked at the first one will work in the second one. You can't apply exactly the same teaching, the same methods. interchangeably and expect it to have the same results. No. You need to adjust your ministry to every situation. You need to become a wise tailor of your faith, a wise tailor of ministry, a wise tailor of teaching and theology, so that you can serve people in a way that actually serves them, so that you can give them the theology, the clothes that they can actually wear and use. You don't get upset with people because they don't have the right shape of body to wear your clothes. You make clothes that fits the body so that people can grow and become the people that God called them to be, to go and do the task that God gave them to do. That's it for the illustration. Until next time.